Once again, a warm welcome on behalf of Lotus and AWS to everyone present for our webinar on how to be compliant, secure, and productive using AWS. Firstly, I would like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us for this session. I ensure you it would be a great value add in your journey on the cloud. Let me quickly brief you on the agenda for today. For the first 35 to 40 minutes, we will have AWS Security Solution Architect Lalit Kumar starting the session today, followed by a brief 10 minutes presentation by local principal consultant Shashidhar Dayamani. And lastly, we will have 10 minutes for any Q&A that you may have. Before we get started, let me go over some of the quick webinar hygiene practices that I would request everyone to follow. Let us keep our audio and video on mute and turned off at all times. Request you to please post any of your queries or thoughts that you may have during the presentation on the chat, and we will be happy to take them towards the end of our session during our Q&A time. With that, welcome once again, and over to you, Lalit.
Thank you, Rona. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking time out and joining this session. During 40 minutes, we are going to talk about security, compliance, and automation. We'll take a very practical approach. We'll take a structured approach. How do you look at security? And this will be full of a demo. There will be a demonstration of various controls. So let's get started now. There are various mechanisms, and depending on our profile, depending on organization size, and the we determine our lens. What is your security lens? A lot of people look from security from the perspective of governance and compliance. That their particular data set has to be encrypted. No port should be open to the internet. That could be part of a compliance statement, that there should not be any external. That all users should have MFA. They should have certain password length. So these could be your compliance statement. And there has to be a governance mechanism. A lot of people think more from governance and compliance. But what about if there's a deviation? And does governance and compliance covers everything? Governance and compliance could be a PCI DSS, could be ISO, could be other FISMA, FedRAMP. There are multiple. There are IRDA, SEBI.
Just to interrupt you, some of the participants are complaining that the audio is not very clear.
Okay, let me see if I can check this. Okay, is it better now?
Yeah, this is better.
Let me try it again. So we do have governance and compliance coming in form of PCI DSS, HIPAA, and other compliance requirement, which is essentially a kind of 100-pager or a 400 or a 500-pager document that we try to implement within our system. But what we define in governance and compliance, we also need to measure what is happening in our environment. So it comes to detection maturity. If someone has altered some parameter, or there are some alarms and matrices which have been breached, and if there's an incident, if there's a compromise, if there's one of the machines got infected, we need to know how to deal with that. That incident management, incident response, is it an automated one or is it a manual? And before any incident could occur, can we detect a presence of a threat? We manage it within time. To achieve this, and this is where everyone's security lens more or less revolve around, either from a governance and compliance standpoint, maybe from a detection maturity perspective, incident response, or threat management. Okay, so some of the participants are commenting that they're not able to hear. Um, can other people also comment if you're not able to hear? Okay, some of you are able to hear. We all are doing it virtually now. Network a problem at times. So a lot of people are able to hear, and some of you are not able to hear. Try to see if there are other devices connected. So let's try to do it. We are going to record it as well, just in case you miss any of the section. It will be recorded and so if majority are not able to hear me properly, try to change. All right, thank you. A lot of people are able to hear. So this is our security lens, and how do we manifest this? There are various mechanisms to achieve this. A lot of people try to implement some cyber an intrusion kill chain, determine how far an attack has been successful in the system, which all security controls or security system, firewall, WAF, antivirus, malware are able to detect and protect against DDoS and WAF. And there is identity centric that I authenticate everyone, I authorize and no one who's unauthorized. But what about identities which has been compromised? And there's
who's told his subordinate that I can, oh, you want to leave, oh, I wish I could drop you to your hometown in Kerala, for example.
Like one very important in between you might situation between around us is not very conducive. But yeah, please see if you could put yourself on mute. Thank you. All right, so identity centric we were talking about that we authorize and authenticate everyone, but there could be scenario where a legit identity has been, or if there is an threat management. How do you there be a threat? Of course, we have strategies around and if there is a so this is typically our security ways we implement levels around it. Now, if you look at the last 20 years, any kind of compromise that has happened due to these 5 initial methods: unpatched vulnerabilities, security misconfiguration, weak, leaked, stolen passwords, social engineering, insider threat. Take compromise Australia National Open University and attack, South Korea nuclear pipeline, any in these 5. So our effort from a security perspective should actually be around these 5. Now, how do we go about this? The first thing is we need to have something called a security baseline. So we have available. Controls does not will stop an attack. Controls also means they will be able to attack. For example, auditability. With auditability, at least we know that who's doing what. Is stopping any kind of attack? No, but it is providing a mechanism. Environment. There's something called a security baseline. What all comes under security baseline? The minimum control every organization should have. Auditability. Who's doing what? Who's done what action which IP address someone has come from. Agent. Network behavior. suddenly start sending packets which are KB, but now my packet size is 5 KB. Something malicious going on. Government compliance. My organization demands that all sensitive data be encrypted. I should and configuration visibility, configuration all my infrastructure. Can I audit access management? Has done what? Organization and account level control. Account. Do I have visibility? What kind of attacks are coming my way? Threat intelligence. And of course, vulnerability management. And all of this, that could be different controls, different system working. Now, I need to have some centralization, some kind of event management platform where I can centralize all alerts and events and take action on. This is a typical security baseline. It doesn't matter if it's in cloud or outside cloud, but these are the function that you need for a baseline. How do you get started with AWS? There is a baseline playbook, which is at job0.in. You can go to this link and you can see it step-by-step details how to configure security baseline in AWS. The first thing that matters in security is visibility. And the second thing is automation. That's what we typically look at, the degree of automation. Of course, build better automation. We need is something called, we need to at least know what all resources we are running. And if we are running resources, what are their configurations? So the second is real-time configuration auditor. I decide that all my resources will have certain configuration, like they will not have any port open to the world. My sensitive machines will have, or my application will have my volume encrypted. My configuration, I don't want any kind of drift happening. And if there's configuration change, I need to know about it. Now, there could be a as well that I don't want anybody to spin up machines larger than, let's, I don't do deep learning. That's not my use case. How do I achieve that? With something called AWS that can discover your resources in your account. It can track configuration changes. In a sense, it understands what all resources you have, create an inventory of them, what is the configuration of them, and assess those basis on certain configuration rules or non-compliant. Enough words, so let's do a demo. The console should be up, it should be visible to everyone. So I'll go to does not require any kind of IP proof. Console is not visible. Can I have some more show of hand? My console clone is visible. Visible. Let me again share the screen. All right, it should be now. Quickly, can someone confirm if it is visible?
It's visible now.
Let's config dashboard look like. First of all, I'm interested in knowing what all resources are available to you. These are the resources available to me. There are 344 resources. IAM role, EC2 network, EC2 instance. There are 7 EC2 instances. Go to EC2 instance. Pick them. You see, are non-compliant. This one is super non-compliant because it's non-compliant with 4 rules. Rest are with 2 rules. Some are with 1 rule. I'll pick up any one of them. Let me pick this one. We'll come to the rules. What exactly a rule means. First thing is, what is the configuration? I'll load the configuration time. So it tells me that on 28th April 2020, this instance gone up, and there has been change. There have been 7 changes on 28th April. 8th May, today there are 8 changes. There are again 7 changes at this point of time. So this tells me the history of what all changes have been done for my instance or any other resource. This could be S3 bucket, this could be my database, this could be my user policies. It also tells me the relationship, which is connected to it, which VPC it is part of, which subnet, which security group. The second part, compliance. When was this resource compliant? When it became non-compliant. When it became non-compliant here. 29 on 28th April, the resource came up and it was non-compliant. So what exactly is this non-compliant and rules are? These are the rules that you can define. For example, approved AMIs by ID. I'm only my developers or my admin who's going to work on AWS console, they can only spin up machines from approved AMI ID. That's like a golden image. There are only 4 AMIs which are being hardened and they can only deploy them. T2 micro, I can choose what instance type someone should deploy. If it is not compliant for me, that could be a developer environment, but for more practical purposes, there are certain instances that we do utilize. They're like around instance types now, different configuration, but you only utilize maybe 10 configurations. Then only those 10 should come, and only through certain AMI ID. Rules. If I go to config dashboard again, there is something called rules here. I'll go to rules. Now, if I go to add rule, AWS for DynamoDB, all these rules have been pre-written. For example, if I go to, let's say I filter by EC2. Now, one of the rules which we're looking at is approved AMIs by ID. Type instance types, EBS optimized instance, CloudWatch alarm resource check. There has to be a CloudWatch alarm resources enabled. So if I click on this one, the network is a little slow, it's taking a little bit of time. Yeah. This is the rule which comes in, check whether an instance. Here, I can supply the AMI ID and I can supply multiple AMI IDs. I can add more values here. Those AMIs will not allow me to spin up other machines. However, that is one, compliant, non-compliant. But then there is also remediation action. Once you're non-compliant, you want to determine what action you want to take. For remediation action, if I go and search EC2, there are action inbuilt like stop EC2 instance. Or if you want to be aggressive, terminate EC2 instance. Or stop EC2 instance with approval. You can have your own workflow and you can decide your action. You can also rate limit your action. Do you want auto remediation or if you want a manual one? So you have to choose between manual and automated. This is a straightforward. If this is not desired instance type, you may simply want to stop the instance. So straightforward. So you have to think about what are the compliance requirements on the PCI, HIPAA, or other. You can take those clauses, understand what is the requirement, and actually define. There are AWS managed rules as well as you can write your own. AWS has multiple rules, more than 200 rules are there in GitHub as well, apart from 100 rules which are managed by Amazon. In console, there are GitHub resources as well. So this is how you'll manage your rules. Now, considering this, consider this scenario. You have your rules defined, but what about configuration? For example, the scenario is this, that your configuration statement says that none of the machine should be open to internet. But what if there is an operational mistake or an insider threat? What I meant here is, if we take an example of an instance where security group is open to the world, instead someone comes in and opens to a particular IP address which belongs to your own organization. But that port should not be at all open on that machine. Is that a violation of your compliance? Probably no, that's not a violation of your compliance. It says that port number 2198 should be open, should not be open to the world, but it's opening to your particular IP address. That could be an operational mistake or an insider threat. There has to be trigger-based. For that, there is a pattern that how do you analyze if there is a trigger or if there is a misconfiguration, how do you capture that misconfiguration, and how do you automate your remediation for that. The example where I was talking about, that specific port has been opened for EC2 instance for a specific IP address within your environment. Is it violation of your compliance? No, it's not a violation, because your compliance statement says it should not be open to the internet, but it does not say it should not be open to your own IP address. Define, because the port could be, or there could be any random port number could be opened on an instance IP address. So that's not a violation of your compliance. For that, a trigger-based automation which can respond to misconfiguration. Now the high-level playbook is this: an adversary. Now adversary could be an external or an internal threat. They come in and change certain things in the environment. All the calls are logged in CloudTrail. So there's auditability. If any change happens, we do have the ability to generate CloudWatch event out of that. And CloudWatch is our monitoring service. It can also generate an event. Based on event, we can trigger a Lambda function, and the Lambda function is a serverless paradigm where you don't need to create a server. All you have to define is a piece of code. That piece of code execute in response to the event. Let's look at example now. Let me again go back to your console and demonstrate one of the example for this. Let me quickly switch this. For example, let's say these are, go to something called security group. See the various security group. It will take a little bit to load all the security group. Could be due to network congestion. It is loaded right now. Our scenario is this, and actually change the security group. For example, here, if I look at this particular security inbound rule, it allows 443. Okay, it's a web server which is only allowing secure traffic. But let me go ahead and edit this. Go ahead and edit it, add any custom TCP is also okay, or anything I can, maybe I want to like do SSH into it. Okay. And I want to read anyway, that will be a violation of my compliance and I'll be caught. So try to play smart and do my IP. So my IP is my organization's IP inside my organization's network. Add this rule. I'll save this rule. The new rule definition that SSH is open to a person. I don't know who is the SSH on this machine. This is still a misconfiguration or an insider threat. And refresh this. The moment I create this new definition, the moment I have a CloudWatch event has been triggered that has actually initiated a Lambda function and it reverted it. A misconfiguration, consider this scenario that if someone comes in, open a port, and after 10 minutes or half an hour, it closes the port. It's very difficult to identify this kind. This kind of automation, which we call trigger-based automation or misconfiguration remediation, can define this, and within seconds, the situation could be remediated. So this is how the function. Once again, we'll go back to our architecture. How's the architecture look like? Architecture is quite simple. If I go back, this is the architecture. There is an adversary. You have your environment. Open up. CloudWatch event is being generated, and a Lambda function is triggered in response to it. Now, who writes this Lambda function? What should be the event? What all misconfiguration I should consider? We have complete guideline around it, and our partner is there to help you out understand various attack scenarios, to identify various indicators of compromise and write these Lambda functions. Some Lambda functions are already written, available on AWS GitHub, plus our partner can do that. Now, moving forward on that example of misconfiguration management, now consider a scenario where someone comes in, the attacker. If an attacker comes in, this is my CloudTrail console. CloudTrail is a service where we log everything, all the API calls being made through CLI, through SDK, through console, all these API calls related to all resources are being logged. If there is an adversary will try to take away, or an internal threat will try to take away my ability to audit and catch them. They will try to hide their traces. I'll go to view trails, multiple trails here, so I'll go ahead and disable this trail. So I've disabled the trail. Now, as an adversary, I'll go in the environment. I might start deleting something, or might create some other resource, or install some malicious code. It's easy for me right now because the trail has been disabled. There are no tracing for me. So as an adversary or an internal threat, I want to hide my tracks. So I'll go ahead and refresh this page. Because I have deployed an automation where the moment someone disables the CloudTrail, what happens? It will generate an event that stop logging event has been triggered. That stop logging event generates a CloudWatch event, and a Lambda function again gets initiated. And that Lambda function, the code written is that it will remediate the situation. So automatically it will switch on the CloudTrail. So I don't have to really worry about it. But the question comes in, we looked at one of the scenario of someone opening up and disabling, someone opening a port, and we can actually respond to that. Now consider this, an adversary has disabled CloudTrail logs. How would you respond? Again, you'll say the same method, that I have a I'll generate a CloudWatch event rule and trigger a Lambda function. I'll also send an SNS, an email to admin that this has been done. Then I don't. I want it to be automatically. The question comes in. Now consider two scenarios. Security group, someone open a port to an IP address and someone disable a CloudTrail. Automatically re-enabling CloudTrail. Is it a good example? Is it a good example of automation? It's actually a good example, but it's a good example of engineering. A good example of a developer automatically remediating a situation. Can do better. Now think from a security perspective. From a security perspective, one should not even be allowed to disable CloudTrail at all. Why? CloudTrail, not the ability to disable it at all. That's a better solution rather than doing over engineering. So let's differentiate where we need compliance. The first example we have seen was of compliance. Second example we have seen is for misconfiguration. The third example we are saying is that there has to be minimum baseline, that these kind of things should not be even allowed at all. That's the baseline automation. We talked about compliance automation, trigger-based automation. The baseline automation is the easiest and most powerful control that protect from insider threats as well, not just from outside. Inside threats, anyone who have legit access, that could be your own employees or could be an adversary who have actually compromised your employees' credentials. We'll look at in more. How to do that? This can be done by service control policy applies at organization level, at the master account level, and all the account development, test, production, to all your account, it applies all the policy from one single place. So you don't have to write policies multiple times. You can define that this is my baseline. What is an example of a baseline? An example of baseline could be that you only utilize Mumbai region. Then there should not be any use case. You don't have any use case to utilize any other region. So no one should be by default allowed to create resources outside the region. That becomes your baseline policy. What you do in SAP, blacklisting, that what is allowed in an account, what is not allowed. Setting up larger machines, GPU-based machine is not allowed at all. You don't need a compliance rule for that. You actually, that's your baseline. You define that certain IP addresses are not allowed, or certain region, no one can deploy control. The biggest point to note here is that this cannot be overridden by a local administrator. A lot of time this question comes in, how do I mitigate insider threat? I had given permission to my administrator. He have all the permission. What if he turns rogue? All credentials are compromised. So now someone with all the rights, even they cannot make changes to your baseline controls. So that is what baseline security automation is. Let me go ahead and continue the tradition by showing a demo around it. So let me show you a quick demo of this. I'll go to the same example. Also show you the policy level policies. If I go to a organization tell me who all are the member account and what kind attached to them. Go to organization here. So while I'm going to the organization, it will tell the member account. This is the member account here. This is the member account. And if I select one of them, what service control policies are attached? For example, deny disabling CloudTrail is attached. Other example could be, there's no use case for anyone to disable VPC flow log. Disable or delete VPC flow log. So they should not be disabled, deleted at any point of time. CloudWatch. I don't want anyone to alter my CloudWatch alarms or alerts. And inside a thread or an adversary try to actually disable your alert so that you don't get any alarm, and they can continue penetrating your network. They can continue moving in your network and compromising your resources. So for example here, rather than writing a Lambda function, what I'll do is I have this policy. So I'll go ahead and disable CloudTrail. I'll go to this will can also disable particular region. So if you have a residency requirement, if I go to view CloudTrail, allow me to view. Tells me you don't have necessary CloudTrail permission to turn off CloudTrail. As simple as that. So I could not disable CloudTrail. If I go again, no, it does not allow me. So there's no way I can disable CloudTrail at all. Now look at other example. To this screen, there is also AWS region-based access. A lot of the time, you might have a request using particular region, or my customers are in India, and my compliance requirement is that I should have a data residency clause, and none of my data should go out. So there has to be no resources to be spun up in a different region. Apart from, I can also restrict which all region I can work on. So if I go to EC2 console here, if I choose anything outside Mumbai, it will not allow me to spin up instances. For example, if I go ahead and choose maybe Frankfurt, and I try to now deploy a machine in Frankfurt, instance here, take a little bit of time while it's launching. Or if I launch the instance, it's describing your selected AMI. It does not allow me to move at all. So there's no way I can spin up resources in region outside Mumbai. And even in Mumbai, I can only spin up resources which are allowed in my service control policy. For example, my service control policy says you cannot spin up any instance apart from T2 micro. Let's say I'm just taking one. There could be other policy. For example, this is the policy we have. Allow specificities. In this policy, I have only defined T2 micro. Now, if I could, in a realistic environment, I might say that R5 series, M5 series, and particular types are allowed only for particular AMI ID. So rather than making it a trigger based or making it a compliance statement, I can actually use these kind of requirement to baseline automation. One should think from the perspective, what is my baseline? Like, what is security baseline? That I should have 8 controls around auditability, network flow logs, around access control. Similarly, one should focus more and more around what are your particular baseline controls. So with SCP, there is no cost to deploy any of these baseline controls. This is just a matter of writing policies and applying these policies to your account. Just if you want to share one example here. So some of the example of SCP, which straightforward could be applied to any organization, are here on this particular page. It will load into CL. Prevent user from disabling guard duty or modifying its configuration. Guard duty is a threat intelligence service. You don't want anyone to take away that capability. You don't want anyone to modify CloudWatch or delete or alter VPC flow log or something like this. Require particular EC2 instance type, require MFA to stop an Amazon EC2 instance type. An insider threat example that someone compromised your credential and they will stop or delete instances. They require MFA. You put those kind of policies. Straightforward policy, nothing fancy, but these are all baseline controls. So start thinking from the perspective of configuration control, governance and compliance control, misconfiguration, and baseline controls. All right, so coming back to our presentation. So you can do insider threat mitigation with your baseline security automation. We talked about one of the baseline factors was how do I run various services in AWS. In this particular presentation, we have not specifically talked about AWS services, methodologies to adopt. Now, talk about something which actually combine all the services. Security Hub is a compliance and security center for AWS customer. That means all your findings, notification will come at one single place. All the AWS security services will be part of Security Hub. That means all of their findings will come into Security Hub. It will aggregate all the related finding, and you can start writing automation right from Security Hub. How does it look like? AWS Security Hub takes all the events, all the finding at one place for your AWS accounts. There could be multiple AWS account. It creates an event. You have CloudWatch, so the pattern that keeps on repeating every time. So if you got this one pattern, you can build any kind of automation with AWS. It will generate CloudWatch event. There's a Lambda function. You can either send it to Slack, PagerDuty, or integrate with your own SOAR kind of tool, or you can write your own remediation. So I want you to look from a Security Hub perspective. If you go to Security Hub, there's a lot more than aggregation of events. If I go to Security Hub here, Security Hub, as I mentioned, that it integrates with all AWS security services. It provides finding from all of them, be it Amazon Guard Duty, Inspector, Config, Macy, IAM Access Analyzer, Firewall Manager, all send their finding to Security Hub. In the summary, you will see all the resources with the most finding, S3 bucket with public read-write permission, AMI that are generating the most findings. So this is the area where you want to focus. There could be hundreds of notifications. You don't want to be drowned in them. You want to filter out. So this is the area you'll be focusing on, and you can build your own insights. These are the Amazon security services, Threat Intelligence Guard Duty, VAPT, Amazon Inspector, Data Classification and Data Security, Macy, Firewall Manager, all integrates here. Apart from this, there are built-in security controls that you can enable. For example, security standards. There's a CIS, PCI DSS, and AWS foundational practices that you can build. And this will automatically run the check. And you can see how much compliance you are. For example, how much compliance you are for PCI, how much you are for foundational security best practices. And it can tell you whether you pass, fail. For example, this one, easy instance or VPC default security group should not allow inbound and outbound traffic. The Security Hub is one which not only aggregate information, it will also provides automated checks against various compliance. Start thinking from the perspective of this trigger automation, baseline automation, and incident response automation. To classify and focus more and more on baseline automation. What should be your baseline? The key takeaways are one, the first thing you should be doing is running a security audit. Our partner to run an audit and assess your current security posture, identify the gaps. Second is set up security baseline. You should have minimal control setup and then build your security automation. And you should have ready to use incident response playbook if something happens. Like we have seen, if someone changes something, there has to be a Lambda function, there has to be a CloudWatch event that can be triggered. So with this, I'll end this presentation and I'll invite Shashidhar to add more onto it. They have capability around it. They can solve all these problems for you. Shashidhar, you want to share the screen?
Hey, it was a very insightful session so far, and I know everyone out there definitely excited about it, and they must be looking forward to experiment and experience with it. So let me share my screen. 1 second. Yeah. All right. So I welcome once again everybody on this webinar. Thank you. Thanks for joining, and good afternoon to everyone out there. Right. So now, my name is Shashidhar Damni, and I'm a principal consultant cybersecurity for Locus. Right. Now, with 2 decades of experience,
Shashi, could you just go into presentation mode?
oh, sorry. Okay, I think yes, we're on presentation mode now. Hope everybody sees my screen and my voice is audible, right? Yeah. Now, yeah. So I think Locus needs no introduction. So we are there around with infrastructure from last 2 decades, right? So with our wide extensive infrastructure footprint, we now stepped into a deep intensive cybersecurity only focus through our new entity called Simeon, right? So here with Simeon, we cater from all your cybersecurity needs from your computer to cloud, right? So, right. And now, yeah, so that's what I said. 2 decades of our experience talks volume about this one. I'm not going to spend much time on the, on these slides. I'm introducing the Locus and all. So I'll focus more on, the takeaways that Lalit was talking about, right? Now let me move through. This is our cloud practice. As Locus and Simeon, we, we are there from entire your cloud life cycle, creating that cloud business case for you, onboarding you to the cloud, and also doing sustenance and maintenance services through our managed services offering, right? And then yes, the partner like us, I mean, we over the period of time developed our own methodology when it comes to migrating to your cloud, or so how the engagement approaches, right? And then this is what our the partnership with AWS. So we are advancing consulting partner to AWS, and our specializations around AWS, migrations, and then we are known in the HPC, so we have experience in spinning up HPC clusters on cloud, right? So managed services on the AWS, right? And then yes, just Lalita talking about the readiness, I mean, assessments and all. Yes, we do them in a big way, right? And then some of the differentiators, like especially the middle one, what you see is Clouter. Now I'm going to tell you about how this Clouter is going to help us when we do assessment services for you, right? Now, yeah, this is the one key takeaway slide where I wanted you to dig deep into and tell you about how a seasoned partner like us can help you in this in this security journey. We all know, right? I mean, we call security as a journey. Now we have to start from somewhere. Now, if I ask you, last time when did you do it? Mapping up your network resources, mapping up what are the IAM rules that you have configured, then what are the security groups that you have configured, and then what something which we call as a accessibility matrix, right? Now, when we say to start this journey, like Lalit said, to do the baselining and all, first we should know where do we stand today, what is our current security posture, right? So how do we do that? I mean, it is not you just go and configure some of the services and you enable them, but we should know where do we stand today, right? Now, how do we do that? So partners like us, we get into your complete AWS service specific security configurations, right? We do your comprehensive security audit, your gap analysis, and to determine where do you what is your current security posture, right? So and we have a defined methodology here, and proven practices around it. And there is a maturity level, measurable maturity level determinations that we we help our customer to do it. So we sometimes call it as the crawl, walk, and run methodology, where we take our customer from reactive to proactive to a predictive level, right? So now to do all these things, we should know from where to start. So that's where the first thing here, the assessment, the security audit. So what do we do? How as a partner we can help you? Like for example, we get into like I said, we get into all your AWS security specific, all your AWS services that you are currently using, right from your EC2, right? So like your guest OS security, the firewalls rules that you have configured, how your API access are being given, right? And how your instances are grouped into, whether just to give you some example, there are some instances that need port 80 only access, there are some need HTTPS 43, right? And then there are some that need say for example 3306, that's a MySQL services. So this groupings, they are very basic, like Lalit said, but they are very important when it comes to reducing your attack surface, right? So minimizing, even if something is compromised, then minimizing the attacker's ability to compromise the host further and launch, using that compromised host to launch the further attacks. These are very important, these baselines and postures, right? Then we get into your VPC security, how your VPCs are configured, what are the security groups, right? How the network ACLs are configured, how your routing table looks like. Is it bloated? Where all the necessary routes are there, or unnecessary subnets are added there, right? So how your about your external gateways and then your internet gateways, and then how, I mean, if you are not using your VPC and you are coming through a direct access, then those configurations around, right? So and then not only this, we also get into things like your Route 53, where how you are managing your DNS traffic and what are the algorithms you are using, and whether these the algorithm that you are using is best fit for your use case, whether you are using like an LBR or a GeoDNS based, or else like something called a WRR, what we call as round robin, right? So while we do assess, we map all these things with your business requirement, right? And then yes, on the definitely you must be using Amazon services like S3. Then we get into what are the IAM policies that have been configured on that. What are how the ACL rules look like, and what are the bucket policies? Are these policies are aligned with the best practices? So these mappings. Now, other services like you maybe, I mean, when you use maybe you are using a Snowball to say upload the data to the AWS, or maybe from AWS to maybe your on-prem or somewhere else, but there also needs these baseline to be set. So now we get into whether when you do it, whether this encryption is done, when you are using doing it through SPE, how the pin codes are being used, right? Not only this, now there are cases where you are using database services, right? So it could be your DynamoDB, or it could be your RDS, your RDS, right? So we go and do the audit, how these AWS data pipelines are being configured there to copy your data table backups, right? What are the type of backups that you have done? Whether a full backup you are taking, incremental that you are taking, right? And then are you doing a restoration test, the integrity test, and all, right? So these become at times very important, because you need these backups when there is a critical time. And now, where do you put this in backups? When you put it, say, when you put this backups back into when you rest or a Glacier, then what kind of access are you accidentally not making it to a public, right? So all these things are also very important, right? So now, yes, like again, CloudWatch, yes, it's very important. Everything, any of your, including your EC2 or anything, all your the cloud resources. So we get complete visibility into all the operational matrices. Now, how do we? The question here is now, are they enabled? Now, if they are enabled, now how you are consuming it? Are you using it? I mean, any log management tool, or like Lalit said, I mean, are you to what level of visibility that you are getting from the Cloudtail log today, right? And it may happen that sometimes you may using you may have to use Amazon config, or else you have your own log management tool. How to or you may be having your own SIM tool. Now, how do we onboard these logs into those SIM and all, and now to build the use cases around these CloudWatch and CloudTrail logs again. Yeah, again, CloudTrail is very important that you enable your CloudTrail logs, because everything that happens in AWS is through API, and then you have to monitor these API calls, and then that's where we can build a story around user behavior analytics. That may be again through a native AWS service, or else through your loved one, any of other solution that in the AWS ecosystem, right? Now, when we set this, so in this, these are all the things where, when as a partner, we come in and, we audit and we analyze the gaps, and then we tell you, hey, look at this. This is what, these are the services you are using. These are the configurations that you have done, and these are the gaps that we see today. Now, to get that, when we know the gap and when we know that what is the visibility that is missing, then that's how, we map this to, the Amazon services, like whether, what you need to enable, whether you need a security hub there to get, kind of a centralized log management, or kind of, a single pane of glass view about, all your services across Amazon, across AWS. Yes.
Hi, yeah, just to remind you on time, we have just a minute left,
Yeah.
and then we can take the Q&A question.
Yes. So so that's how, this outcome of this will help us to map that the required AWS services that you need, right? So it could be on your whether you need for your doing your VAPT, you need AWS inspector, or how you're using your patch manager, right? Or else, sometimes, yes, you want to use it a callless, yes, you can. That's where, the partner like us who understand the AWS services, and also the ecosystem, the AWS, the supported ecosystem around that, the marketplace tools also, right? So that's how, we can bring immense value on the table. And now, when it is setting up a baselines, we also look into some of the AWS Foundation benchmarks. There are CIS AWS Foundation benchmarks. So like Lalit was mentioned, SCPs. Similarly, these are very, very important, the benchmark which are available. And then we do check what is the gap against that. Okay. And then what are the service control policies that have been deployed. And now, for that matter, for the guest OS security, what are the sticks that that you configured or else are missing from the OS hardening point of view. Now, the next part to it is building, security automation and a playbook. This is something very important today, because it is, what we call it, and as a Locus and a Simon, we bring, we bring a philosophy called continuous protection, continuous protection, continuous visibility, and continuous compliance. When I say continuous compliance, right? So continuous protection, we should be continuously monitoring our security posture, okay, and then continuous response to it, right? It is not an ad hoc response; it should be continuous response, and that remediation plan should be immediately available, and that also should be continuously remediating it, right? And also with continuous compliance, which is very important here. Look at last year, it was like around 50,000 vulnerabilities that have been discovered. I see most of our, when I ask customers, like, how do you, what is your periodicity of doing vulnerability management, vulnerability scan, they say, it's once in a quarter or maybe once in a year, something like that, right? So the 40,000, 50,000 vulnerability discovered is more than 100 plus vulnerabilities discovered per day, right? So we should be doing when we say we are doing compliance management, that has to be continuous, and then the remediation is also automated there, right? Like Lalit said, what is important is it is not only you are doing compliance management, but you are also automating it, because manually looking into each compliance and getting the output of it and seeing it whether this compliance, the control that I have put is there or not. So many times what happens in the operations, you tend to, when you try to do some break fixes, or when you try to do something, you tend to dilute it. Like in firewall, we put permit IP any, and then we solve the problem and we forget to, again, remove that. So so many times it happens, right? So there has to be some continuous monitoring. If some my critical access list or some my critical rule or my hardening rule, which is missed, we should be immediately get a notification, right? And now this is what, how we automate it. Now the response playbooks, this is something which, where in the security hub, you get all the data, and there are automations where natively available, like Lalit said. So we need to map what are the AWS natively available automated responses that are available. Else, beyond that, when you are trying to do, say, you want to build a complete runbook automation, playbook automation for your entire security incident investigation, then that's where your integrations with the store comes. And this store, when you do it in the AWS, it can also be used. Say, for example, you have a accredited user, and then he's on your AD, and then doing some unauthorized activity there in the AWS, and you want to just knock him down. Then that's where this automated playbook can pick up logs from your CloudTrail and CloudWatch, and then go into your AD and disable that user. So this kind of a playbooks we can look for, and these are the things, playbooks and all, we have to discover. For it is not, it is said in the security world, one size doesn't fit all, right? So for every organization, whether it's a small, big, or medium, so these use cases differ. So that's where partner like us can have an extensive discussion with you, okay, and suggest you suggest you what are the use cases that need to be built. And now, with this, I think I should, with interest of the time, I will end. We can definitely, you do ping us, send a request to Runa, and also definitely we can continue this session one-on-one with you, right? So these are very important. We can start this, doing all this thing with a, with a security audit and knowing your posture, and then Lalit has added 4 things here in the takeaways. When we do all these things, right? So everybody there, today there in the webinar must be somebody who is responsible for security for their organization. What I believe is, when we do all these 4 things, what we eventually get is a good night's sleep. Right? Definitely, we all looking for that, right? So thank you everyone once again for joining this webinar, and I do believe it was very useful to you. Thank you once again, and over to you, Runa.
Thanks a lot, Sashi. It was really engaging, and thank you to let the entire group about our AWS capabilities and our expertise on security. With that, we will quickly, I know we have run over a little bit on time, so for the benefit of time, I'll just take a couple of questions that were there. So the first question that was asked was, does AWS config also give the high-level inventory? Lalit, would you want to take that up?
I've already replied to that. It's not just the high-level inventory. We capture a detailed inventory along with the relationship, configuration drift, and compliance.
Thank you. So there were a few questions to which I think our panel team has already replied. There were a few questions.
I've also replied in the chat window. I replied.
Yes. So thank you. And I hope we can have just one last question if there is from anybody else, because the other questions seem to have been replied on the chat. So if there aren't any, I would want to extend my heartfelt thanks to everybody who took the time out for this webinar. Thanks a lot, Lalit, as well as Shashi, for such engaging and detailed session. I'm sure there are queries that some of the attendees have in mind, and we will get in touch with you to ensure that your queries are answered. We'll be reaching out to you with the feedback form for the webinar, as well as we will share the recording out of the webinar as soon as we can. Thanks once again, and with that, we close the session for the day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.